That's all I have to say.
That's it.
I will say that coming up on Thursday is Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah celebrates the day of recognition of this fall, and recognition of forgiveness, and recognition of trying to do good deeds for the next year. So in honor of that, I will read this. Oh, sweet September, thy first breezes bring the dry leaves rustle and the squirrel's laughter. Well, actually, it's chatter. The cool, fresh air whence health and vigor spring, and promise of exceeding joy hereafter. I'm not sure who did that, there that came from. So, thank you, and have a good week and a good September. Let's do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Thank you very much. Quite a few of announcements, so here we go. Do we have any guests here? Let's see any guests. No, okay. So we'd like to recognize some people for their anniversaries in Kiwanis. So 49 years to Larry Barrett, 36 years to Judge Sarah Evans Barker, and as you might remember, she was the first woman to join the club in 1987. And 22 years for Jeff Otis, who's with the Kiwanis International. Happy anniversaries. I'd also want to thank all of you for your membership. You'll be receiving a letter this week asking for your recommitment to the club, which means your annual dues. Our next club meeting, our board meeting, is Tuesday, September 12th at 8 a.m. Join us next Thursday, September 14th on Zoom as we welcome Jen Hebhard, Director of Central Indiana Regional Transportation Authority and Commuter Connect, to talk about car-free Indy Day. Monday, September 18th is our monthly lunch at Iozo's. We're back at the Columbia Club on Thursday, October 28th for President's Day to present the 2023 Career and Civic Awards and honor all previous recipients and Kiwanians of the Year. On Thursday, October 5th, the Indiana District Governor will install our new officers. Riley will also join us to share more about the giving opportunity for the Reach Out Indiana campaign and the alarming rates of youth suicide, depression, and other mental health conditions devastating children and teens. I heard part of this program at the division conference, and it was fabulous. So Riley Hospital is doing some really creative things. I'd like your help in sharing the 2024 Kiwanis Foundation grant funding opportunity with nonprofits in the community before the application closes on October 6th. Several grants up to $5,000 will be provided for the creation or expansion of initiatives that directly impact youth in Marion County. If you'd like to assist in reviewing the applications in late October, reach out to the Kiwanis office. Instead of a meeting on Thursday, October 12th, you can sign up to assist in the Coats for Kids set up on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday afternoon at the State Fairgrounds, or help during distribution on Saturday. The Salvation Army is expecting to provide 4,000 winter coats. And as the current board chair of the Salvation Army, I encourage all of you to sign up for all of these, because we've got a great relationship with the Salvation Army, and this would be a wonderful way for a lot of us to be there at one time and show our support. Thanks to Graham Honecker, we have 3 more Zooms scheduled October 19th with author Diane Henricks to talk about her new book, Taming the Street. December 14th with Dr. Stacy Gowan to talk about the Athletes Against Anti-Semitism and Discrimination Consortium. And January 11th with Bob McKillop for the 2024 NIT tournament at Hinkle Fieldhouse. Chuck here for football updates.
Well, as you know, the Colts season starts this Sunday, and we are in the planning stages of the, gosh, what is it, the 60, Kelly, help me out, 60? Oh, look on the remarks. Okay, yeah, read the papers. Yeah, it's December 7th, first of all, and if you've never been, it's at the actual Colts training facility, and we expect 250 players, scholarship players from the academic scholars from Marion County. And it's a great facility, always looks something, one of our highlights of our year. And we're in the planning stages right now, and we will be awarding 2 scholarships to players in Marion County, and academic scholarships, and also a Great Player Award, which is an acronym for various programs that are various attributes that are elected by the coaches. And let's see, look for more information soon. Rob Schlegel, Bill is here. Roger's usually here. We're on the football committee. And let me know if you'd like to be a table sponsor for the event, but particularly mark your calendars for December 7th so you can be there. Any questions? Thank you. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Chuck. Abe Lincoln continued, we'll have our second meeting on Saturday, September 23rd, and we're going to be at KI headquarters up near the pyramids. We're looking at Kiwanis ambassadors, yes, like an envoy, who will reach out to the Marion County High School principals to invite them to participate in our youth recognition and scholarship programs. Please see Kelly for the list. Abe Lincoln nominations will be due December 1st. We'll meet the candidates again at the Lacey School of Business on Butler campus on Saturday, January 13th, and present the scholarships. On Friday, February 9th at Primo's, we're proud that we have awarded so far $1.2 million in scholarships to 187 students since 1976. 2021 scholar Kyle Zhu just sent a note. I want to thank you again for helping me have this amazing experience at Georgia Tech. The past 2 years have been incredible, and I'm excited for the years to come. He's got a 4.0 GPA in computer science and interested in teaching fundamental data structures and algorithms to students. I couldn't do that. I'd like to now introduce Shelley Hunter, College Mentor for Kids. Shelley?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Shelley Hunter. I'm CEO for College Mentors for Kids, and we are one of your grant recipients. So thank you so much for your support. Special thanks to Graham as well for being our advocate during the process. But I thought what I could do is tell you a little bit about what we do. And again, we're just so grateful for your support. So College Mentors for Kids has been around 26 years. Our first campuses were IU and Butler. So what we do is we bring 1st through 6th graders to a college campus once a week where they're mentored by their college student mentors. We're on 31 campuses, so we're a national program. Our headquarters are here in Indianapolis. We're on 31 campuses in 10 states. So just to give you like a sense of our campuses, we go from smaller campuses like DePaul, Wabash, Valpo, all the way to Purdue and Ohio State, Virginia Tech, UVA, so in everything in the middle. But we have one program that we specialize in, and that's our mentoring program. So as I mentioned, we bring 1st through 6th graders to a college campus once a week, and they get to take advantage of all the amazing resources on a college campus. I'm sure many of you may remember your time on a college campus The first time you walk onto that campus, your eyes are big. You're like, this is such an amazing place. Look at all these resources. Our program follows the school year, so we're just getting started. We actually just had our national conference at the NCAA headquarters last weekend. We had 200 of our student leaders in town. So they're learning about best practices. They're sharing best practices with each other. They are learning about fundraising. They're learning about safety and how to work with our little buddies on campus. So last year, just to kind of give you a little bit of scope, let's rewind just a little bit further. Pre-COVID, we were serving 2,700 little buddies and over 3,000 college students. And just like everybody, COVID really knocked our feet out, knocked the wind out of our sails. And so we've been gradually rebuilding since COVID, but we're making really good progress. So this past year, we served 1,500 little buddies and 1,800 college students. So I think it's just remarkable. It's remarkable for me to think about what it means to be a college student mentor. When I was in college, I was not in a place to give back. These college students are, and it is amazing to see what they do. So just for example, last year, our college students logged 50,000 hours. So each time a little buddy comes on campus, it's about 2 hours of campus time. So you take that times 1,700 college students times 17 or 18 times on a college campus each year, those hours quickly add up. Your grants specifically supported our Indianapolis chapters. So those are Butler, Indy, and Marion. It helped us support 200 college students and also about 180 little buddies is what we call them, our first through sixth graders. I think one of the remarkable things that I love about the program, one of the things that really I fell in love with the program to begin with, is the dual impact. So I think we can all imagine what the response is, what the impact is for a first through sixth grader when they come to a college campus. I talked a little bit about that. But think about the college students and what they're gaining during their time on the college campus and interacting with their little buddies. So they are learning about what it takes to manage an organization, like all these professional skills, conflict resolution, working with peers, working with the administration at a college campus. And you may know that's not always easy, right? There is this very strong hierarchy many times on a college campus. So that's one of the things I particularly love about college mentors, and I love that our college students have the chance to really get that professional expertise that will be really valuable, whatever they do next. Let me give you just a few examples of what a normal activity looks like on a college campus. And let's use Marion College as an example. So Marion is paired with Holy Angels. Holy Angels is at like 30th and Martin Luther King. So the bus comes to Holy Angels, it picks our little buddies up, it takes them to the Marion campus. All of our little buddies then are greeted by their college students. So the little buddies run off the bus, they find their mentor, they've got huge smiles on their faces. They're just so excited to be on a college campus. We then take our little buddies to their homeroom where they get probably the most important thing in the program is snack time. They love snack time. So we send them down, they have their snacks. You know, it's a long day at school, right? They need a little extra nourishment. So snack time is a chance to interact with their mentors. And then we get into like the activity of the day. So each activity is a hands-on activity, again, using the expertise on a college campus. So I know one of our favorite activities last year on Butler's campus was when the marching band came. So they come, they've got their uniforms on, they've got their instruments. The band talks to our little buddies about what it means to participate in an extracurricular activity on a college campus. The dedication, the time commitment, the discipline, what it takes to learn how to play a musical instrument. And then they let the little buddies try the musical instrument, and then they all participate in the Butler fight song. So that's one example. So it's those sorts of activities layered on top of STEM activities. So again, just one of my favorite activities from last year was when we brought the engineering club in at one of our campuses, and they helped the little buddies create solar ovens. So they used cardboard boxes and aluminum foil and a few other things. They took those solar ovens and put them out in the heat, and they melted and created s'mores within the ovens. And again, really focusing on the food, right, for our little buddies is a really important thing. But also thinking about all that, the technology, the engineering piece of a solar oven, what it takes to build that, why, how the sun kind of conducts that electricity and the heat as well. So again, it's everything from like extracurricular activities to very basic career opportunities as well, and everything in the middle too. I thought I'd leave you with a mission moment, just real quick, if that's okay, just to give you an idea of what that relationship is between a little buddy and a college student. And I'm gonna read it just to make sure I get it right here. But last year we had a mentor-buddy pair that just wasn't connecting. One of our chapter staff members worked with the buddy pair to try to connect them and urge them to engage with each other, but it was a really challenging relationship. They tried lots of different things, but nothing really seemed to work. After the first semester, that mentor was not able to come back because of scheduling challenges. So we ended up finding another mentor for this particular little buddy. And let me tell you, they connected from moment one. The mentor's name was Symphony, and Symphony directed all of her attention to this little buddy. They bonded quickly. They loved being together. They loved dancing together. They loved just spending that time together, and connecting was one of the most important things. Symphony really brought this little buddy out of her shell, and the personality difference from the first semester to the second semester was really remarkable. The little buddy actually just began to shine. You could just see the little buddy just come into her own. And that's just an example of those relationships that are formed throughout the year. Again, we're gonna have about 1,700 relationships just like that nationally. Your support here in Indianapolis is meaningful, and we just appreciate it so much, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley, that was wonderful. I'd like to introduce Kara Kovert and Prey and Mandi Bender. Mandi joined the museum as Director of Guest Experience and Events in March of 2021 and promoted her current role as Vice President of Operations in February of 2022 for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. She manages the day-to-day functioning of the museum, including guest relations, ticketing events, and visitor amenities. Kara Kovert-Prey has served as Vice President of Marketing and Communications since February of 2022. Previously, she worked at Newfields as Director of Marketing, overseeing all marketing efforts for the museum, including, as you probably already know, Winter Lights and Balloon here in Indianapolis. And I'd like to bring them up and have them share some information about an update on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us to be here today to talk about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. Kara and I are still fairly new at the museum. However, the museum itself is not new, and that's partly why we're here today. So I'm sure some of you heard back in 2016 about some potential renovations out at the museum. There were some very big splashy plans launched, and wings and extensions and all sorts of things like that. And that never actually came to fruition. When I started at the museum, we began a round 2 of planning and ideation to renovate the museum, working with the current footprint that we have, understanding why, well, one reason why we need a new museum is the current building that we're in was built in 1976, and that was the last update it ever received. So we're getting a little long in the tooth as far as the facility is concerned. And so that ideation and planning all came to what we're gonna present today. But how I got here to the museum, I do not have a museum background. I do have a bit of a motorsports background, however. But even getting to that path was also long in the tooth. I grew up in Wisconsin. I did grow up near a racetrack, but my experience at the racetrack was working, you know, a concession stand, that type of thing. After my first year of college at UW-Madison, where I ambitiously set out to be a pre-vet major, organic chemistry got in the way of that. I decided to switch majors, and then I worked on an agricultural journalism major. Clearly not doing that either. But that did, you know, growing up on a farm, working in hospitality, all sorts of things did set me on this career path to get where I am today. And ultimately, I moved to Colorado, where I worked for Vail Resorts at that point in time. And then, as life hands you all sorts of things, in 2014, I decided to move to Indianapolis and take on a job with Andretti Sports Marketing. A friend of mine offered me the job. She said, "Hey, do you want to run a street race in Miami?" So going from running restaurants in the mountains of Colorado to running a street race in Miami made complete and total sense, and I said, sure. Fast forward through a few marketing positions at Andretti Sports Marketing, later became LST Marketing. I then switched over to Klipsch Marketing and Advisors, a lot of marketing in there. And then a former board member of ours, Bill Osterly, who recently passed away, had said to me, "Why don't you come to the museum? Help us build our events program there, bring on another stream of revenue." So that's when I came onto the museum in 2021. So that's how I got to where I am. As far as operations are concerned, you know, I am not a facilities expert, but I've learned a lot in the last couple of years about a 1976 era building and the lack of updates that it has, HVAC, plumbing, engineering, you name it. So in our current iteration, I do help with the day-to-day, but now with our upcoming renovation, I am leading that project for the museum. And I'll let Kara talk a little bit about her role, and then we'll go into it.
Thank you. While it does sound like I have a museum background, that fools you, just to know that I came from Newfields. So I grew up in Indiana, but southern Indiana, and we were talking, I attended Ball State here in Indiana, and my entire family did too. And interestingly enough, Shelley, my sister, actually was a College Mentors for Kids person at Ball State. I know, so I can't wait to tell her when I get out of here that you were here and everything. Yes, in fact, she's an elementary school teacher now, and that was how she got involved with it. And so, I mean, I'm not young, neither is my sister, I can out her, but she loved that program. So it's so great to see how wonderful it's doing now. I can't wait to tell her. Small world. But my first foray into my career was actually in college athletics and marketing and communications. That was something that I just started doing when I was in college. I started working in the athletic department. Thought that was super fun and cool to work on football games and basketball games, and I'm just going to keep going. So that's how I really started my career. I worked for a few different universities, and then returned to Indianapolis actually to work for the Indiana Sports Corp here in town. So I worked with Indiana Sports Corp starting in 2015, so I was able to be part of Final Fours, multiple Final Fours actually, some of the swimming or diving trials. They have swimming trials coming up. There's all kinds of exciting things. So my background is much heavier in sports. And then the Newfields position came to me at a time when I was looking to kind of slow my life down a little bit. And so I went over to Newfields, and if you had asked me when I was in college, or even probably 5 years before that, do you think you would ever work at an art museum? I would have said, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. But a former intern of mine persuaded me. She was working at Newfields at the time to look at the job, and you know, she really kind of sold me on, because of the loom was getting ready to open. They had winter lights. They had getting ready to start the Harvest Festival, and she said, look, we need help getting the word out, selling tickets, and getting people excited about what we're doing. And she's like, that's what you do for football games, basketball games. It's no different. So I moved over to the museum space, and I really enjoyed being a part of the museum. I thought that that was just it was a really interesting guest experience. You know, what I always loved when I was working in college athletics was making sure that the athletes and the fans had a great time. We wanted everybody to leave that day with a smile on their face. And so it was still giving me that same reward working at the art museum. The position at IMS Museum came up and it looked really interesting. And I had heard the glimmers of the renovation that Mandi mentioned. So I was very curious about that, and met with Joe Hale, our president, and he said, look, we're gonna actually do this. And I think that that was something that really intrigued me. So I joined in about a year and a half ago, and what I think has been really interesting, and Mandi can speak to some of this as well, is, you know, when I started, and probably pretty close to when she started, in our heads, the timeline was we would have been really under construction, almost done at this point. We thought that we were going to move a lot quicker. For a variety of reasons, it slowed down, and I think every single one of us on our senior leadership team will tell you for the better. We feel so much more prepared now that we've launched this campaign and that we're, you know, going into this renovation than if we had started a year ago. I think that that was, you know, for the numerous reasons, it was the right thing for us to slow down. My current role as head of marketing communications is just that. It's pretty straightforward. We're telling everybody about the museum. We're getting people excited. The biggest thing that we are constantly trying to communicate, which most people do not know, is that the museum itself is an entirely separate 501c3 nonprofit organization. We live absolutely in the middle of the track, and we have a very kind landlord in Roger Penske and a great supporter of the Speedway and Doug Bowles. Doug even serves on our board. You know, we have an amazing relationship with them, but we are an entirely separate organization. So we are responsible for all of our own fundraising, for all of our own revenue streams and everything like that. And that has been a big part of what we are trying to get that word out, and also just trying to tell people about the work that we do. So we are very excited to share with you some pictures and a little bit more detail about what we have planned. So in July of this year, we went public with our campaign entitled The Stories Behind the Spectacle. Through the extreme generosity of Lilly Endowment, they helped really seed this campaign. It is an $89 million campaign. But thanks again to the support of Lilly Endowment, as well as several of our early funders. When we announced our public, we were over 51% of our goal at that time. So we are well on our way with this fundraising campaign. The reason it's called The Stories Behind the Spectacle is, and you know, this is where the kind of marketing communications comes to me, is we all talk about, when you talk to people about the Speedway or the Indy 500 or even the city of Indianapolis, the race itself, or they will have some sort of story or anecdote, whether it's personal or it's about a friend. I mean, I say I've attended a wedding of two people who met in the infield of the Speedway. You know, like it's amazing to me how much this place is connected to us, not to mention the history and the impact it's had on the community from even an economic development standpoint. So there's so many of those stories, and that's really at the heart of the mission of the museum, is that we're the keeper of those stories and we are the storytellers, and we want to do that in just a better way than we currently are. I'll let you talk.
So when we began the planning of this, like I said, in past iterations, there was giant wings being expanded. We did realize that through some studies, we have 97,000 square feet to work with within our building, and it's very underutilized right now. So working with those plans, we decided we are going to concentrate our funding on what's going inside the building versus outside. There's going to be a few changes, things like, you know, getting up to code on ADA requirements, those types of things. Moving our beloved limestone statues of the Coyote and the Novi up onto pedestals, putting a staircase in the center. But essentially we are, and, you know, even something, it's very minor, but we're lowering the flags. Right now you see a picture of the front of the museum, and those flags go right across the words. So just making it an overall guest experience that, you know, you can take that picture, have that little keepsake. But again, most of the concentration will be on the inside of the building. So we're calling it the Welcome Center. It's not just ticketing. To Kara's point, we are a separate entity, but that's really not realized on the surface level. You walk in, you would never know that the gift shops operate separately from the museum ticketing, from the IMS itself. So the Welcome Center, we do represent the Indianapolis Motor Speedway 363 days a year. We are only closed on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day. And so when people walk in, whether it's the first time that they've been there or the 500th time that they've been there, they're gonna ask questions about the property itself, the museum ticketing, so we wanna welcome those folks into our museum in the Welcome Center. Real quickly, one point of note, we talked about visitorship at our table, and about 80% of our visitors are outside of a 100-mile radius or more. On the far side, you'll see that map. Right now, we have very analog maps on the wall where you stick a pin in where you're from. We wanted to digitize that. We have travelers from all over the world, from New Zealand, from Asia, from Europe. So that's something that we want to capture still in our Welcome Center. So now when you walk into the museum, we're going to tell the story of the evolution of the IMS through the lens of Gasoline Alley. We have over 100 years of history, and so we've divided that up into 7 different garages, representing different eras of evolution, change, progression here at the IMS. You'll see us go from even like a dirt surface to the brick surface to the asphalt surface, and you'll go from the very early iterations of the garages, car appropriate in there. We have cars dating from the very first winner, the 1911 Marmon Wasp, all the way up to our most recent winner we have in our collection is the 2016 winner, Alexander Rossi's 100th running winner. So you'll see cars evolve, you'll see the casework evolve. And then, much like you do on race day, you'll go from Gasoline Alley and you'll turn the corner onto the starting line. If you've ever had the experience of standing on the grid on race day, there is nothing like it. And it's hard to replicate. However, we are gonna give it our best attempt within the starting line experience. Overhead we'll have LED projection. You'll see the flyover, you'll hear the marching band, you'll hit all that pomp and circumstance that is on race day, all those traditions that we know and love, the singing of Back Home Again in Indiana, that all take place in here. And then these 3 cars actually represent the current chassis that IndyCar drives now. These would be show cars, but every year those will be rewrapped in the current starting line's livery. So those cars will change every year, and that's a great experience for everybody to see what that starting line feels like. When you come out of the starting line experience, you're gonna be focusing on our winners gallery and mezzanine level. One thing, if you've been there recently, this whole upper area does not exist. We have lovely soffitted acoustic ceiling tiles with like really old light ballast. So we realized we had about 7 to 8 feet to work with above us. What does Joe say? It looks like a school cafeteria with books on walls. We're getting rid of the school cafeteria feel. And we're gonna be building this grand staircase and mezzanine to showcase our winners gallery. Very generous donation from Randy and Mary Rogers to make this winners gallery a doable feat. So lots of engineering that went into this.
The other thing you'll notice kind of right in the center is the Borg Warner Trophy. So a lot of people don't realize that that we are the keeper of the Borg Warner Trophy. We actually keep it on display and we care for it. Our collections team, I'm like, can you just get one of those little polishing cloths like I use at home? They're like, absolutely not. So we care for it. So we have, if you've seen it recently, we just have kind of a modest display of it. And we want to create a display, honestly, that's worthy of that trophy. It's one of the most beautiful trophies in sports. And so that's also something that will kind of take that center focus, is to have that trophy on view. And then we'll get to it in just a moment, but you'll also notice there's stairs leading down. Currently, the lower level of the basement, we offer what's called a basement collection tour. It's a high dollar VIP tour experience, but it's not available for open guests. It's not a part of your current ticket. When we talked about expanding our footprint, that's a part of what we're doing to expand our square footage within our footprint, is that we're adding that lower level. We'll show you some images of that, but that again is adding more area for us to have additional displays and cars in the exhibitions.
There was always a lot of legend and lore about what's in the basement at the IMS Museum, and to Kara's point, we did open that up as a high-end VIP tour, but we do want to make that area available for all. So So this is just another view of the winner's floor. You'll see actually the mezzanine above, there is an oval cutout, much like the track itself. For this mezzanine, again, focusing on the Borg Warner in the center. And then we have about over 55,000 pieces of memorabilia and artifacts within our collection. Most of it right now sits in 3 different vaults within our lower level. This is our opportunity to showcase and tell more stories about whether it's helmets, engines, race suits, our Hall of Fame, rookies, all of the women in racing, having smaller vignettes to showcase those artifacts on that mezzanine level. Excuse me. So, much to Kara and my dismay, our career in motorsports did not involve becoming a driver or working on a team, doing pit stops, but we are going to have our qualifying zone. This is a really interactive area of the museum. We say we're kid-friendly, but there's a lot of don't touch the car, don't touch this. We wanted to have more for families and kids to participate in. So this is that qualifying zone. It's learning what it takes to be on a team. We'll have, driver reaction testing, a toddler pit stop play area. We'll have our simulators along the back so you can do your 4-lap qualifying at the Indy 500. Even the exploded car, there's thousands of components that go into the car. And even just certain pit stop challenges. How much does a tire weigh? What does that feel like to hold that air gun in your hand? So this is gonna be a really fun area. And then our STEAM classroom. There's STEAM and STEMs. The A in STEAM actually stands for arts. There's a lot of careers in motorsports, basically any career that you have in any regular business also occurs within a motorsport or team entity, race producer, what have you, everything from accountants all the way up to mechanics and drivers and everything else in between. So the STEAM classroom really gives us that opportunity to help guide and work with, different areas of education to further that development. We'll have classroom style situations, but we'll also have charitable items so you can learn about physics and you can learn about wind speed and all those types of things within the STEAM classroom. And then, as Kara mentioned, we're punching a giant hole in the floor. And the basement will now become the lower level, and that'll be part of your general admission experience. This first featured car gallery, a lot of people also don't know this, we have a full restoration team that works with the museum. We have about 6 people that actually keep our cars in running condition. You'll see us drive those cars on race day, we take them to various concourses, things of that nature. So this first featured gallery will feature some of those cars from restoration. And then the other winners gallery, we have 2 winners galleries actually. We have one on the main level and one on the lower level.
Winners.
Yes, we actually have 38 winners that we house at the museum now. 34 are owned by the foundation, 4 are on permanent loan. But we have to have room for them all. So we'll have 26 winners upstairs, we'll have 12 winners downstairs. These won't be stagnant exhibitions either. These will rotate based on certain anniversaries, based on if we're driving or racing one of those cars in a historic exhibition, all those types of things. But this will be our secondary winners gallery. And then we were talking earlier about tours. We do operate the tours on the facility. That's the shuttle that goes around the track, things like that. Right now, you can actually purchase a ticket for a tour in our lobby and walk straight out the door, not even go into the museum. We want people to have that experience, see those stories before they get out onto the track. So this will now actually operate out of that lower level on the west end of the building. This is going to be our track tour lounge. We're going to have a 3D projection model. I think there's a lot of people that don't understand the size and scale of the IMS. They'll be at the museum, they're like, how do I get to turn 3? And then you have to explain that they have to go about a mile and a quarter away just to get to their seats, and then still get on the outside of the track. So this projection model will help us, on days that we can't operate tours, help us explain that size and scale. We've all seen that graphic. It's like 3 Vatican cities, 1 Rose Bowl stadium, all those things that can fit inside the IMS. 350,000 people on race day. And that is some of the highlights that's coming here at the museum. You have a question? Yeah.
3 questions. Okay, you said you were an independent entity.
Yes.
So who owns the Speedway or museum?
Mm-hmm.
Second, so you've got almost a $90 million budget, no additions to
Right.
the building. third, do you have any off-site storage?
Those are great questions.
Very good questions, and I can answer all of them. So, who owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum? So we are the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Foundation, Inc. So it is a 501c3. We are a public 501c3 as well, so we are publicly funded. The building, the actual shell of the building itself is owned by what is now Penske Entertainment. But everything, the collection, all the cars, us to some degree, is owned and operated by the foundation itself. So that answers that question. Next one was,
Off-site storage.
oh, off-site storage. So we do currently have off-site storage already. A lot of people have asked where are the cars going while we're under construction. A lot of people have volunteered their personal garages to house these cars. We are actually, yeah, sorry. We'll get a list later. We currently have some off-site storage for certain components of our collection, but we've already moved our offices. We're gonna be housed at the Brickyard Plaza across the street from the Speedway. We moved a couple weeks ago. And then we have two other locations within Indianapolis, really not public locations. We're not going to be doing tours or anything there, but the cars are going to one location on the east side, and then we have a collection storage for like the non-car artifacts in Speedway.
Do you have any permanent donations? They're owned by someone else?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
So we have 4 winners that are on permanent loan to us. Don't ask me to name all 4.
Yeah.
One of them is the 2016 winner, Alexander Rossi's car, is one of our permanent loan cars.
We, to answer your third about kind of the breakdown, which we didn't go over, so of the $89 million, that's broken down. 64 of that is going into the museum space that we shared with you. 15 of that is actually going to, we talked about our restoration facilities. We're actually going to be building an off-site restoration shop and storage space, which will be very close to the Speedway. It'll be within walking distance of the Speedway and the museum. And that will serve multiple purposes. One is it's a place for our restoration team to work. Second is it will house over 140 cars that are on storage or off view at the time. And then it will also serve as a secondary like income place. We'll be able to do tours there, events there, things like that. And then the last 10 million of that 89 is actually going into an endowment. We want to, we're looking at the long game for a museum like this. And one of the things that we didn't really mention is, as a part of the plans, there's 2 spaces that will be rotating exhibition space. And that's something that our curatorial team has really, within the last few years, tried to increase the number of rotating exhibitions, whether it's a focus on a driver like Rick Mears, or it's a focus on a specific storyline. We just had one that was called Second. It was about all of the drivers who finished second at the Indianapolis 500 but never won it, and kind of telling their stories, because there's a lot of really big names in there who've had an amazing career aside from winning that. So it gives us a chance to do a lot of that, and that's what that endowment does, as well as continuing to grow our collection. I mean, any museum wants to grow and refine their collection, so whether that is acquiring vehicles, additional artifacts, we say, we're in a really unique position of where history is made every day at that Speedway. Every race, there is history made, and we want to be able to be a part of that. A lot of times you think of a history museum as acquiring something from 100 or 200 years ago, and we're looking at, Elio Castroneves just won, he won his 4th race just a couple years ago, and we want to have something to celebrate of that win, to be a part of that. So it's making sure that we have the funds available to do our exhibitions, add to our collection, to care for our collection, and to even staff appropriately. So that's kind of the total breakdown of where all the money is allocated.
You've got so many artifacts. How often will you be rotating them?
So right now, we are, because of our space issue and our display case, we are so small that we are not able to rotate them as much as we would like. It's one of the reasons that we've been doing more rotating exhibitions. It gives our collections team, our non-vehicle collections team, a chance to really rotate through a lot of those. With the addition of the mezzanine, a very purposeful part of the design of that mezzanine was to increase display cases, and for that space to really not be car focused. It's a chance for us to get trophies, race suits, helmets, programs, tickets, even the badges, a lot of things like that we have in our collection, to get that more out on view. And then our collections team, you know, this, one of the things that, I don't know if we've actually officially said, but on November 6th, we're closing for 18 months to make all of this happen. So the museum, by removing everything, what it's also giving is, it's giving our collections team a chance to assess, do a full assessment of everything, and determine that rotation calendar as well. Because some things for care simply can't be on view or be exposed to light for very long. So it gives them a chance to kind of really go through and determine what that rotation schedule should look like. But we fully expect to see an increase in display of our artifacts and increase that rotation schedule than we currently are able to. We're just hampered. Yes.
Couple questions. You contemplate food there? I mean,
That's a great question.
Yeah. So, when we talk about operations, we are, as I like to say, you have to cross the moat to get to us, within the Speedway itself. But right now, you come to the museum and there's not food options for you. So if you're having a day at the museum, you can't even go to a vending machine and buy a bottle of water. In talking through this, you know, having a separate cafeteria or something like that, we decided was maybe not the best fit. But so we're going more in that track tour lounge. That's gonna be more like kind of grab and go style food. So it's gonna be elevated above, you know, a vending machine, but not quite a sit down opportunity. And then to your point there, so that'll be like a daily option. But we do private event rentals right now at the museum, and that'll be something that's offered as well. And we'll work with the concessionaire and the vendors at IMS to work through those things as well. So.
does the State Museum have any of your artifacts that you need?
Actually, right now they do.
Yeah, Vintage Vision is actually on display right now. So part of our collection is we have quite a few Indiana-made passenger vehicles. Those are currently housed in our basement, but 10 of those went on display with the Vintage Vision exhibition at the State Museum. And just, I mean, again, the reason the Speedway is there is not because of the 500. It was actually built as a proving grounds for Indiana automotive passenger vehicles. So we have quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous and beautiful.
And we have even more that are on display there. Our curatorial team has really great relationships with not only the local museums, but even those throughout the country. So during our closure, they're actually working on temporary loan agreements with some of our artifacts and our cars to go to other museums, such as the Kovert Museum down in Bowling Green, the Henry Ford, the Peterson out in California. Because we also don't want these to just stay hidden for a year and a half. We want to get them out. So we're working through all of that. But we have a great relationship with the State Museum. We've also had conversations with Newfields, with the Children's Museum about different ways that we can kind of still have our collection out during that time.
One follow-up is concerning, we're going to have a board of those who have been marshals. People who have listening to all those people. And secondly, those who have died in the race, memorials.
Yes. You know, how we display that hasn't been determined yet. Exactly, like you said, those that have unfortunately passed during racing times, that type of thing. There's also those ones that, you know, whether it was testing and things of that nature. That hasn't, it's a very sensitive subject, obviously, but there is a lot to be said for those that have given their life for racing, and that's all part of our history.
The curatorial team is actually right now, in meetings to talk about different themes for all of those display cases in different areas, and that is one of the items on their list, I know, as to how to kind of best do that. Good question.
Speaking of owning stuff out, I go through the airport a lot, I see cars in the terminal, I assume those are yours?
They are
ours, yep.
Yeah.
It's been like that for years, will that continue?
Yes. We have a really great relationship with the airport. They're very kind in allowing us to have, we have two, depending on, you know, which concourse you go, you can run into one of our cars. We change those out about 3 times a year with the cars, and we actually just did an update to the space, and I think we're having, especially during this closure, having conversations with them about if we can put more out there during this time as well. So.
There's even a Facebook page of selfies with the IndyCar airport cars or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact title, but people will take their selfie with the car and post it.
It's one of my favorite things when I'm walking through there is to watch
me
and
too.
see how many people stop and
It's
take
like,
pictures and
being
everything.
home.
It's like home sweet
Yeah,
home.
exactly. Yeah, it's been a really great relationship with them, and we're so grateful that we're able to have those cars on display. So.
Any other questions? Yes.
Collector cars, part of the issues keeping them running.
Right,
yeah.
Like you
Yep.
said, because they deteriorate, so talk about people in the process involved with keeping our running condition.
Yeah,
How many
sure.
of them actually do run? How many are just displayed?
So everything that's on display isn't, you can't just go and start it up. When they're on the floor, they're a term called pickled, so basically taking all those corrosive fluids out, that type of thing, so they can be safely displayed. But then right now we work out of a 3-bay garage on the other side of the grounds near the barn on 16th Street. And our restoration team, I mean, we have a gearbox guy, we've got, body and detailing work, all that stuff is being done on a daily basis. So 6 permanent staff that actually lend themselves to the restoration team. Like I said, certain cars will go on display. Like we actually just won Best in Show at the Amelia Concourse, Pebble Beach. We have a Ferrari 250 that we had out there as well. And again, it takes some time. And they're doing a lot of troubleshooting as well. I mean, again, this is not something that you can go to AutoZone and buy a part for.
Right.
So they're machining and everything like that. So this past year on race day itself, we had 8 different cars that we got up and running for parade laps on race morning. That's usually the goal, is in that 6 to 10 area, but that's a lot of prep work just to get those cars up and running.
They have a full rotations, or full
Mhm.
schedule. I think it's about a 5-year schedule as to how they rotate the cars in to do full checks, check them,
Yep.
run them, everything like that. And then again, we're all trying to find the positive in this year and a half closure. Restoration is actually really excited because they typically never like to pull winning cars off of the floor, because those are cars that most people try to come and see. But with our closure, they are shifting their entire focus to those winning cars, to work on them and to get those prepped and everything. So they will be able to take advantage of this time to really work on all of those vehicles. But it is, we are one of the higher staffed restoration, or higher number of restoration staff of other museums. It's very important for us for that care of our collection and everything.
That would be interesting.
Well, I have another experience.
The people who are doing the restoration, that's a story in itself,
It
and their
is.
backgrounds and histories.
It is,
Yeah.
and we've actually, that's one of the reasons it's really pushing us for this new restoration space. It's where they currently are, it's not conducive to take guests to. But we want to open that up to tours, to even do like, more of like a longer like programmed event, come by, get a cocktail and like talk to, Dan and Poppy about what they're doing to this car over here. They're all race shop guys. They also have all these great stories about,
Absolutely.
different things, and they're just a really fun crew. But we really want to spotlight the work that they're doing, and that's what this new space will really allow us to do.
And
I have one unrelated
oh,
question.
yep,
Here's my question. If technology is changing so rapidly,
absolutely.
what about a research part of this museum? For example, the issue of carbon, the issue of going to solar. Maybe this is something that you could get a grant from the federal government or whatever to do research on efficiency. Have you thought about that?
So we recently just hired somebody within our team to start doing more grant writing, that type of thing. We have applied for a various number of grants with technology, things of that nature. Just even upgrading our ticketing system was a great example. So there is a lot to be said for those grant opportunities to help fund this project, especially when we're talking through the education and STEAM initiatives. Which brings me to a very good point. Support. So one of the things that we are talking about is, obviously we did receive a very generous grant from the Lilly Foundation. Part of that grant right now, so it's a $20 million pledge. $5 million of that is actually a dollar for dollar match through the end of this month. So any dollar that is pledged between now and September 30th will be matched by the Lilly Endowment up to $5 million. So that's really a big push for us right now. Again, there's multiple ways to donate. And we are always very appreciative of anything from $1 up to, if you've got a couple of $100 million sitting around, it's fine. But we'll take it, and we'll put it to good use. But, again, this is a really exciting project, not only for us, but for the community. I mean, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is synonymous with Indianapolis and is known worldwide. And so for us to be able to, cherish that and honor that in this way is very exciting.
We're really excited to reintroduce ourselves to the community as
Yeah.
well. I mean, I think we're one of the city's best kept secrets, unfortunately. But we talk a lot about how our visitorship is so high from outside of the Indianapolis market, even the state of Indiana. And so for us to make it a destination, I always say, I want us to be, when you have friends or family coming into town, and you're like, what am I gonna do with them this weekend? I wanna be on your list that you're naming off. And so that's something that we're really excited to do with a lot of this, is to really become a part of just that cultural institution here around the city. When you're looking at, you know, things to do and ways to get out and enjoy the space, we wanna be a part of that.
Again, thank you for allowing us to be here today. It was very much an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mandy and Kara, thank you so much. A donation will be made in your honor to Indy Star's campaign for Report for America. I guess we are adjourned. Thank you.